The reason I'm asking is because of this mysterious building that used to exist in Doncaster. It's called the Sand House, and I'm going to tell you about a new drama that's been made about it in just a bit. But a few years ago, our reporter, Andy Kershaw, remember him? Well, he did a bit of digging in Doncaster to find out more about it.
I didn't know about this remarkable piece of 19th century history, but I do know somebody who does, and it's Richard Bell. He's the chair of the Sand House charity.
Yes, it was a huge mansion when it was finished. It was something like 120 feet long, about 40-odd feet wide, over 2 floors, even had its own ballroom inside it. The ballroom, some reports say, could accommodate up to 300 people.
And who was the eccentric personality behind this? Was he either mad, had too much money, or was he totally bonkers?
That's no way to talk about my ancestors. Actually, the man who created it was my great-great-grandfather.
Was he?
A man called Henry Senior. And he was a businessman, and he was initially in the business of extracting and selling sand and sandstone from the small quarry that was here.
Oh, I see.
And then he also was in the business of building houses in this area as Doncaster expanded when the railways arrived in the middle of the 19th century.
There's Hexthorpe, and there's, that's where the Flying Scotsman was developed over there.
Yeah, we're only about 200 metres from the railway, and as you say, only a short walk from the town centre. And to think that something so remarkable as that once stood here in a very ordinary area as it is now is pretty amazing.
Did he carve this house out of one piece of sandstone then? Was that the story?
As the quarry was extended and one of the rock faces progressed back in one direction, so this big block of sandstone was left in place in one half of the quarry, as it were, and then the ground around it removed, and then that block was hollowed out to form the rooms, an intermediate floor fixed in the normal way, and a traditional sort of roof on top. But all the walls were solid sandstone, typically about a metre thick, and the gable end wall...
Did anybody actually live there?
Absolutely he did, yeah. He lived there. The first record of it, in its sort of initial state, when it was rather smaller, only 4 rooms, that was 1857, so that's the first time we know it was in existence. It survived right up until just around the start of the Second World War. Henry Senior himself died in 1900, and then the ownership transferred to Doncaster Corporation. There was a tunnel network that ran under the land adjacent to what had been the quarry, and that was linked into the Sand House, and all along one particular section of tunnel, which was known as the cloisters, were these magnificent carvings. People are blown away by the fact that such an amazing place used to stand here in Doncaster. It's an endless source of fascination to people.
Hello, how are you, sir? Can I do BBC Sheffield? Can I ask you? This gentleman's a historian. On this spot, there used to be something called the Sand House.
Yes, yeah.
Do you know much about it?
No, only what I heard from my dad.
I've always been interested in Sand House because, as his dad used to tell us about it when he used to play in it as a kid.
Really?
Yeah. He used to play in it, yeah. In tunnels.
What did he tell you about it?
Oh, he said it was amazing. It was just inspiring. He says you couldn't describe it and give it credit. But
It should still be here, by the way. The Sand House.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, it should be.
We've got this ugly-looking thing.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, you live here, don't you?
yeah. But it should be. Yeah, it should be open to the public.
That naughty Andy Kershaw, BBC Radio Sheffield reporter, talking to Richard Bell, and that's the Secret South Yorkshire episode about the Sand House in Doncaster. You can actually subscribe to our Secret South Yorkshire episodes via BBC Sounds. Very quick to do. You can find out more information there. Very quick and easy to do. Well, a new audio drama, not documentary. I've got that from. A new audio drama surrounding the Sand House is out. Have a listen to this.
Jim? Are you there? Jim?
They're still here. Almost worn away, but it's them. Elephant and Mahout. Woo!
I think we should go back. Jim? Is that you?
Alice Robinson. Can you hear me? That wasn't me.
Who are you?
I'm foreman of this morning's working party. You know what we've come to do?
And you're not going to do it. Not while I'm down here. Not while there's breath in my body.
New audio drama surrounding the Sandhouse, written and created by Peter Spafford. And Peter's on the line to talk to us. Peter, first of all, listening back to that, how did it feel? Does it feel like you've hit the jackpot?
Well, we've tried to do justice to a fantastic story, a true story too. Although it's a drama, as you say, it's a dramatisation of a fantastic story from the last century, which had, it was lovely to hear those people, those recordings of people talking about their dads playing in the tunnels, because that's exactly what happened in the 1940s and the 50s. Those tunnels were still there, and kids went down there and played. The sculptures were there, and then they weren't.
Oh. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about why they weren't, or is that part of the mystery of your piece?
No, I think it's fairly common knowledge, really. I mean, the thing is that although Doncaster were, the corporation were looking after the place, it ran to ruin, and it became, sadly, a bit of a hazard because there was subsidence in nearby streets. People complained, and so they eventually the council had to fill in the caves, which was a bit of a tragedy because you could say it was not so far-sighted. They might have done more with it, because it was a place that people visited. That's what Henry Sr. really wanted. He wanted to make something in Doncaster that people would come from miles around to see because it was remarkable. He said people go to London, they go to, further afield to Rome to see these big sites. But, come to Doncaster, I've created this thing. And he wanted that to persist and for it to be preserved. So, and I think if it had been, it would have been a wonderful, wonderful thing that could now exist and people could go down there and tour around it. But very sadly, they had to fill it in. So in the 60s, it's all gone. It's buried forever.
Oh, very, very sad. Peter Spafford, we're talking to a creator of a drama about the Sandhouse in Doncaster. If you know the Sandhouse, if you ever went down there as a kid, get in touch and let us know. We've been talking about the Sandhouse in Doncaster. If you're from that neck of the woods, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. Peter Spafford has decided to make a radio drama all about it, but he's also written a stage production as well, which was at the Cass Theatre in Doncaster. Before we go any further and talk about why you love this place so much, Peter, can you take us through those tunnels? Because a lot of us would have never experienced that. What was it like? What do you know about it?
There are some photographs which will be on the Sandhouse website, which are fascinating. But Henry Sr. had this idea of creating, apart from the house, a cloister, kind of gallery, really, of statues. And he engaged a local stonemason to carve statues that Henry himself devised and imagined. So there was Queen Victoria, there was a clown. There was an Irish couple called Pat and Biddy. They're really quite a weird selection, but when you walked through, these often were life size or bigger, and they were awe-inspiring. People walked through there, light would slant through. There was a fantastic statue called the Elephant in Mahout, which was really a wonderful piece of art, and of course. They were buried with everything else, but the kids, when they went down there in the 1940s, and the play partly deals with the friendship of a couple of children who do that. You go down and play there, and then you get older and become the people you heard in the audio clip demonstrating against the destruction of the Sandhouse.
Yeah.
They would have seen the ruins of these statues still there, crumbling away. They were amazingly atmospheric cloisters, and quite an achievement, really.
On this website, it's described as a Victorian marvel. I'm looking at some of the images now, and they are pretty spectacular. To think that they're hidden, under there, just there now, it's all been filled in. It just seems so wrong.
It's a real shame, isn't it? And yet, it's kind of. I think Henry was one of these Victorians who had vision. He had an idea. He was from Doncaster. He was a local man, but he had a vision and he put it out into practice. He made it happen. People saw it, and I think there's a lesson there. It's like if you have a dream, you follow it, you make it into stone if that's the way it is. And sadly, also, there's another human lesson there, which is that, there's a certain amount of, we build these wonderful things, and of course, time, there's a bit of irony involved. Time has its way with us, and things get obscured, buried, but that doesn't negate the aspiration, the dream of doing something remarkable, and he had that dream.
How did you create that on stage then? How did you create that at Cass? Was there a lot of sand involved, Peter?
There was a lot of sand involved. Yeah. One of the things was a sandbag that was suspended over the stage, and it kind of dripped sand all the time. Because one of the things was that although he claimed that in the sandhouse that everything was, kind of sealed, unfortunately it wasn't. So his wife, certainly we had in our drama, we had his sort of running joke really with his wife complaining that there was always sand in her porridge because, this would drizzle down from the ceiling. So, yeah, we had lots of sandbags, and we tried to create the atmosphere of those tunnels as well as we could with what we had, yeah.
Wonderful. And where do we get to hear this radio drama then? Where is it for us to listen to?
Well, it's on various podcast platforms, but the best thing really is to go to the website, a wonderful website, which Richard Bell, who you heard earlier, has created. He really has been the force behind the kind of rescue. And it is a kind of rescue mission, really. We can't unearth that place, but we can unearth it through our imaginations. The fact the website does that, so do have a look at that with the photographs and also the play and also the audio drama. So they're all trying to sort of bring this thing to life again. So the play is on there, www.thesandhouse.org.uk. If you Google Sandhouse Doncaster, really, you'll get there.
So fascinating. And what in particular, you've kind of dripped almost sand-like bits of why you are fascinated by this area. But what was it that made you become so involved that you wanted to write so intensely about it?
Well, I was doing another play in Doncaster, this was about 10 years ago, called Only Water Between, which was a play about a First World War soldier who lived in Doncaster and his wife. I used to work at the Royal Armouries as a writer in residence there. So we were doing that play in Bulby Community Library. And then Richard, I was introduced to Richard. He said, I've got this story I want to tell you about. If you can write a play about that soldier, you can write a play about this. And as soon as he told me about it, I was completely electrified and wanted to do it. And that's, we did. It was a stage play. It was on for a couple of weeks, I think, in Doncaster. It sold out every night. We'd love to do it again if anybody's a benefactor wants to give masses of money towards a Doncaster project to rescue this play. There's a stage play, then we'd be happy to hear from you. But in the meantime, there is the audio drama, and that is there, and that'll be there forever on the website and on these platforms, podcast platforms.
And it has to be a stage that can cope with lots of sand. We need to throw that into the equation as well, Peter, don't we?
Yeah, that's very true. Lots of sand involved. Yeah.
Lovely to talk to you. Thank you very much, Peter Spafford, creator of the radio drama Sandhouse. You can listen to it by going to, as Peter said, the Sandhouse, all one word, thesandhouse.org.uk.